Mr. Peck, thank you very much for joining me to talk about your latest film, Silver Dollar Road. The first question I wanted to ask you was about approaching potentially polarizing subject matter. You certainly haven't shied away from potentially polarizing subject matter in your films.
Well,
When you, I'm sorry?
they find me.
Yeah. When you approach a film that you think might have polarizing subject matter, do you approach it with a particular audience in mind? And how does that influence the way that you craft the narrative?
First of all, I would like to tackle the polarization
Mm-hmm.
aspect of it. But for me, nothing should be polarizing. It's a matter of a conversation.
Okay.
For me, there is something called reality, and you can try to interpret the same reality through different aspects. That's a
Mm-hmm.
discussion. But what I have less patience for is people discussing without knowing. We are in a world of opinion, and people voice their opinion without thinking, without doing their homework.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I'm fighting a lot. And I think my film, basically, I don't think I made any film without doing my homework.
Mm-hmm.
And and really very long research, sometimes years of research. And then, of course, when I have my sense of what the issue is, I tell it in a very forceful way. Yes, indeed. But the polemic doesn't start with me because I do my homework.
Okay.
So,
So would
yeah.
an audience have to do their homework before they
But
watch one of
I
your
can
films, or
only,
is watching your films part of my doing the homework of learning about the subject?
well, I guess the audience should at least uh, have the patience to watch a subject, can decide if
Mhm.
it's honest or not, and do some, sometimes some searching too. Go on the internet, read
Mhm.
a books. By the way, all my films, I recommend that once the film is finished, go read some books.
Mhm.
If if you do read one book, I won. That's what I want you to do. I don't want to preach, to be the preacher. I want you to expose a problem to you and gives you the evidence, and then you decide.
Mhm.
That's my approach usually. Uh,
Okay.
so in that particular case, because you asked the idea of an audience,
Mhm.
one thing I did decide is that I wanted to make a film where a Black audience would feel at ease watching it,
Mm.
because that's not always the case.
Okay.
How many times I'm watching a film and the discomfort comes when I realize that somebody actually don't at all know who I am and did not do their homework and is using cliches, to portray my story.
Would it be possible to speak to a particular scene, maybe where um, uh, that you might have had that in mind, the
Okay, I'm
making the
gonna
Black audience feel at
give you a
ease?
very precise example. If you read the newspaper, sometimes you would say, okay, the story of the Rios family is the story of the two brothers who went to prison for
Mhm.
everything. Okay. And if you read that headlines and you want to watch the film on any other network, the idea usually is for, I would say, a normal audience, which in this country is primarily a white audience.
Mhm.
Uh, if you want to put that audience at ease, you can say, well, it's a crime story or it's a
Mm.
victim story. And my choice was to say, no, I want you to understand who those people are as human beings before you can voice any opinion.
Mhm.
I entered the film with the family in a picnic. I
Mhm.
wanted you to see them through my eyes, to see them as human beings before you learn of their drama. And that's not what usually happens in the industry I'm working in.
Mm,
Usually you want to know from the get-go, those people, they're going to go to prison, or they are victim of a crime, or they are suffering or some trauma. And it's not an accusation. It's just how
mm-hmm,
the industry developed, you know? People want to know from the get-go, what am I watching?
mm-hmm,
Before you even engage with a human being.
mm-hmm.
Basically, you're creating more cliches.
So that anticipates another question I had about crafting the narrative, which is obviously in the James Baldwin documentary, you used more archival footage.
Yeah.
Here you had access to um, the Rios family. Um, to what extent did you sort of know the story you wanted to tell, and to what extent does it develop as you're getting to know them?
It's both. Usually, I do, as I said, extensive research myself.
Mhm,
That's why some of my projects take 5, 6, 8, 9 years. In that particular project, the journalist Lizzie Presser and her team have done an extraordinary work for at least 3 years. So and the ProPublica journalists, they really do their homework,
yes.
and it's tight.
Hmm.
So I had an incredible trove of material at my disposal, and they had also recorded videos of their work. They have recorded incredible moment in the life of the family, and in a very intimate way, because Lizzie was like the daughter of the family at some point. And
Hmm.
I saw that when I visited the family with her. I could see the intimacy of her. She was still a journalist, but still the family opened their arms for her, and they treat her like a daughter of the house. And so that's an incredible situation to be in, and a very productive situation. So I didn't have to spend a year with the family to get
Hmm.
trust. I benefited from Lizzie's work, and the rest is I use, as I did for other film, everything that existed before I came on board as archive. you know
Hmm.
so my duty was now to build a narrative and to create a film. And a film means uh, a narration of a story with characters, with moments in the life of those characters, with conflict, with emotion, with a moment of joy, and with life in general. And I had all that.
Hmm.
And so the filming I did, and again, that's a luxury, was the filming I knew of stuff that I needed to add to make
Hmm.
the story complete, to make the story interesting for a wider audience,
You.
to make sure that it's a film, it's not
Mhm.
a social report. It's
Okay.
a film with an artistic approach,
Hmm.
the format, and if you know my other films, content and form are linked.
Hmm.
In a film just to give data, or to.
Right.
It's really about a filmic experience, so that you can watch a film like this several times.
Hmm.
Just a report or a journalistic report, you watch
Hmm.
it once and then, okay, you have the data, you move on. Here, you have a narrative. You have a narrative, you have a story. And each time, if myself, I watch it, I get into that story again. And I follow it. I cry, I laugh. Each time I see the scene with mommy yelling at
Hmm.
those people as at those surveyor, it's an incredible moment. So that's what my job is, basically.
My wife is a painter, and she says one thing that she really likes in a work of art is if it reveals different things to you upon different viewings. And it sounds like that's something that you strive for as well.
Exactly.
Um,
Otherwise, it's just a product, and I
One
don't.
of the things you mentioned was moments of joy as getting to know the Rios family. probably the most painful scene for me to watch was when one of the respondents says, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't believe things are getting better. I don't think that we're making progress. I don't think, you know, either we as a culture or America as a nation is, and that's very sobering, but very sad. Um, what would be some of the moments of joy that you think that provide uplift and don't make the film sound like a complete sort of downer?
Mhm. Well, first of all, I tend not to watch my life or what I do in terms
Hmm.
of downer or
Hmm.
uplifting or pessimist or optimist, because my goal is to catch reality,
Hmm.
and whatever we do with it, it's our
Okay.
problem. So that's my job as an artist,
Okay. I
catch
had
moment of truth, moment of reality,
okay.
and give it back to you so that maybe you will know what to do with it. So that's all I see. My time spent with the family is to be as faithful as possible to what they are saying, uh, to to not judge them,
Hmm.
to believe that when Mamie, because that's her who say, for 60 years nothing have changed. And
Hmm.
who am I to tell them, oh no, Mamie, oh, there are laws that have been voted, there are this,
Hmm.
we have a rapper on television every day, we have this. No, but her reality is
Hmm.
changed for her. How come she have still, it's 2023, she still have to fight for 13-acre land, prime
Hmm.
land, to defend a place that she knows is her own for generations?
Hmm.
That's her reality, and we
Okay.
need to respect that. So that's what I see, you know.
Hmm. I had one final question. In 2020, your film "I'm Not Your Negro" was voted by the jury at Arts and Faith as being one of the 100 top 100 spiritually significant films.
I didn't know
It
that.
Yeah, so is there a particular message that you would like um viewers of faith or particularly Christian audiences, but of all faiths or spiritualities, to get out of your films in general or Silver Dollar Road in particular?
Well, is to maybe discover who that family is, who
Hmm.
somebody like Mammy is. I've not learned, but I I did respect her for the way she she is herself, in her emotion, in her understanding of this particular issue. At the same time, she always makes sure that she back up and think. At one moment she said, you know, what are you going to do with Black people? And then she said, no, what are you going to do with us poor people?
Mm-hmm. I remember that scene.
And for me, it's somebody that see human being as what they are. She knows she's suffering as a Black woman. At the
Hmm.
same time, she has the distance to see herself as a human being in the
Hmm.
whole narrative of society. And
So to summarize, it sounds like one of the best things that we can do as viewers of faith is try to see the human being behind the issues. And one of the ways that your films contribute to that is by focusing on the human beings at the center of the story.
exactly,
Yes.
it's not, if it's story of racism, yes, it is, but it's race have been used in many occasions to for greed people to get access to you or to get advantage to you, and it's poverty is poverty. Class is much more uh, 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 um, a problem in this country,
Hmm.
and that's what it is about. How do you see the other? We are always the other of somebody.
Hmm.
You know, I'm sure many white Christian in America, if they travel, they go elsewhere, suddenly they realize they are the minority
Right.
and they are the other. And
Mhm.
so even for my personal hygiene, I always try to put myself in the other and
Mhm.
say, she's a mother, she's like my mother, she's a daughter like my daughter, she's, and we would solve much more problem in our societies if we accept that the other has a right to exist as well.
Okay.
And
The new
stop.
film is Silver Dollar Road, and Mr. Peck, thank you very much for spending some time and answering a few questions. I really enjoyed it, and thank you for the film.
Thank you very much. Thank you.